On the last episode of the Bigger and Better Business and Social Action One East Podcast Special Edition,
And what he believed at that time was, let's develop a title of Sigma Wellness. And what Sigma Wellness did, it brought all three programs at least under an umbrella because they were interchangeable.
We're just on this treadmill, right? We're moving, but we ain't really going anywhere, right? And we say politics start local. And so for me, my idea and what I brought to them was, how do we train our brothers to be advocates in the community? How do we train them to make sure that they have relationships with the players? How do we train them to understand that you can complain all you want, but you need to have a seat at the table?
All right, brothers, we are back with the One East podcast. Before we went to break, we had another past regional director of social action join our panel. So I'm going to give him the opportunity to introduce himself. Brother Reeves.
Good day, brothers. Definitely a blessing to be here. I have to give honor to God, from whom all blessings flow. Certainly give recognition to our honorable brothers that are among us. It's certainly fortunate for you brothers putting this together. I am J.R. Reeves, the immediate past director, the 27th Eastern Regional Director. I was fortunate to serve as social action director from 2012 through 2016. Seems like forever ago. It was certainly interesting because I was able to serve under Honorable Brother Williams when he served at the international level as International Director of Social Action. So I was able to not just serve the region, but certainly look, support, and learn from Honorable Brother Williams in that role as well. So good day to all.
And the funny thing is, when he was watching Brother Williams, I was watching him because I was the state director of social action in Pennsylvania. But before we went to break, you were trying to, you wanted to respond to what Brother Williams said about community policing.
Absolutely. Just want to sort of dovetail with a thought that Honorable Brother Williams kind of brought to me. I think that in the realm of community policing, there's also the aspect of education and exposure. Within my current chapter, as Advocacy Sigma chapter in Prince George's County, Maryland, we have several law enforcement officers, a few of which happen to also be advisors to the Sigma Beta Club. And so just 2 weeks ago, we had a Sigma Beta Club meeting, and we have a very wide range of young men in that group. And having law enforcement talk to them and give them an exposure and advice. Most of us got the talk as we grew up about, how to conduct yourself when you get pulled over and things like that. Law enforcement was able to talk from the position of being a Sigma and being a Sigma Beta Club advisor. So that exposure really helped the young men understand advice such as keeping your registration up in the visor, making sure you have your documents and legal things within fingertip reach where you don't have to go into the glove box or cause any sudden movements that may cause trepidation on behalf of law enforcement when you get pulled over. That exposure is certainly key. Another aspect that came to mind when Honorable Brother Williams was talking is about the exposure perspective. Growing up, and I just happened to grow up near Brother Hutt, they had, when I was younger, they would have midnight basketball leagues. And those midnight basketball leagues were often put on by law enforcement. Prince George's County Police, Washington, D.C. Police. We used to go over in the Southeast and play at the rec center there. And having that interaction, even playing, 3-on-3 or 5-on-5 ball with law enforcement, it humanizes them. It makes you understand who they are. They're just like you. Even the ones that didn't look like us, the fact that they were there and you would have those lock-ins, from midnight until 6 a.m. the next day, gave you credence to understand them better, them taking time out. And maybe you didn't even understand it when you were younger. You were 12, 13, 14. But when you got older, that connection stayed with you. And so the exposure and the education to not just Sigmas that want to go into law enforcement, but to young men of color that look like us, to humanize law enforcement and to make that connection just goes a long way. I just wanted to share that because you made me think about that.
Yeah, you know what? I don't want to monopolize the law enforcement aspect of it, but when you talked about that talk, that all of us, had gotten, and as a young kid growing up, my parents were from Florida, so back in those days we would drive from New Jersey to Florida back when there was no 95, and you had to take all these back eye routes to get to Florida. And if you ever heard a book, it's called The Green Book.
Yes.
That was real. And you had to be very careful of where you drove, where you stopped, and it happened to us one night with my dad. So I'm well aware of that fearful impression I had a long time of law enforcement. I had an uncle that was in the state police, but the only time I ever saw him, because the minute he graduated from the academy, he was the third black trooper in New Jersey to come in the state police. They took him right from the academy, which is you just don't do, and it was right at the same time of the Newark riots. They put him undercover, so he never saw the road. So I would only see him looking scrawny, full beard, and I would never associate him being a New Jersey state trooper, because once I learned to start driving, that's the only people I kept getting pulled over by. So when you made the comment about teaching our kids, what I tried to do was talk to kids, but talk to, again, these collegiate brothers, because all you hear sometimes in the black community is to be scared of.
Yes.
And I'm trying to show you should not be scared of. If you've done nothing wrong, most of the time, things will go your way or go the way they should be. We're no different in the law enforcement than in the communities and everywhere else that we have racism and people that are racist. That doesn't change. But what I try to do is teach these brothers the importance of us being in that role, because we can't change anything if we're on outside. So my goal has always been, man, if I can get you interested in law enforcement, I don't care if it's state police, local cop, or some of these brothers that are in Secret Service, FBI, DEA, all those type of law enforcement entities, that's a win for us, because that's normally not where we are. So I share that to say we've got to do better at how we talk to our young kids. And finally, I'll say it because my daughter, we were driving the other day, and our granddaughter sitting in the back seat. She said, "Pop, you don't have your seatbelt on." Well, Pop never has a seatbelt on. I just don't. And so, Pop, Mommy said the police are going to pull you over and go to jail if you don't have your seatbelt on. So at that point, I had to stop and say, that's not true. Right. Because you're making her scared of a law enforcement officer. But I get it, but that's not the way to do it. And it's the same way when you're talking about how do we engage these young brothers that come to our conclaves, how do we get them more involved in law enforcement? And it's, again, that connection we have with many of our brothers in all aspects of law enforcement. It's just not putting that badge on and being out on the street driving around. We've got so many fantastic brothers, man, that are doing phenomenal things in the criminal law aspect of it, that we've just got to put brothers in front of them to talk to these brothers that have reached that plateau. And I think there's an avenue to do that. And you can do it in anything. Yeah. I mean, we talk about bigger and better business. When I was regional director of bigger and better business, I created what we call the Blue Pages, and I tried to get as many brothers as we could in the region, but we identified every one of these brothers' jobs if they wanted to put that in the book. And it was to share with chapters to say, man, look, you're coming out of college or you're trying to transition from another job. These are these brothers that you can connect with, and they may be able to help you out. So those are the things that we've been doing. We just got to find a way to get the message to these brothers that Sigma's doing these things. Guys are doing phenomenal work out here, but we can't get the message out to these brothers. And I've yet to figure out why that seems to be such a problem to get these more brothers engaged in what you guys are doing, because you can't make me believe it's still not a struggle.
Well, we can plug two things there. I think it's important that we get back to education and exposure, and Brother Stiff, some of the work that you've done as Eastern Regional Director of Social Action in the camps that have happened. You talk about the Blue Pages. For those brothers who are watching, the blueprint is a resource, and there's something called a membership directory. And under the leadership of Brother Gibson, with some help of his team members on the BBB team, there is now opportunities for you to put your careers, your profession, and for our business owners, for our entrepreneurs, your business and what you do for a living and what business you have. And it's there for all of the brothers to be able to see. So when you talk about exposure and getting that information out, we need a brother to tell a brother to tell a brother that there are Sigma businesses in the blueprint right under the directory. All we have to do, brothers, is bad information in, bad information out, right? Good information in, and we can use that for better success and to have a greater impact to do the things that we want to do. So if all the brothers commit to going into the blueprint and just updating their About Me section, we can have a bigger impact on a lot of the things that a lot of you brothers set the foundations for, and some of the things that Brother Stiff and myself and those who are going to come after us are trying to do. Especially when we talk about education and exposure around law enforcement and some of the things that Brother Stiff is doing with the day camp.
Yeah, well, since Brother Howard brought up the day camp, you know, it started in the eastern region, but our Phi Beta Sigma gun violence prevention and de-escalation training day camp was created for young men between the ages of 12 and 18 to educate them and empower them on the proper way to not only deal with law enforcement, but how to bring down the temperature of a conflict without grabbing a gun. And that very day camp is now in its 4th year. And, you know, as we gear up for another one, I think since we talked about it a lot in the last segment, another question I want to ask each of you is, as we talk about youth and community engagement, how do you think we can ensure that young members of this fraternity are actually involved in executing advocacy work?
Great question.
Yeah, so I'll start, and I'll just say we got to start utilizing technology. I think we all sit up here, and we're not Gen Zs, we're not in Gen Alpha, but oftentimes we get caught trying to tell collegians what to do or show them how to do it when we have no idea how their brain works. And so I think we have an opportunity to do one thing, leverage technology. I love what you and the Bigger Better Business team did with the career and blueprint. But understand that a lot of that information is already on our PBS2 app when we come into the organization. So why do I have to go back to do an update when I've already given you that information? And so our processes have to be squared away, right? Where we're already collecting that data from the beginning, and it somehow just doesn't translate into what we see once we come across in blueprint. So that's the first thing. And another thing is training. If we polled our collegiate brothers and asked them how often are they going their blueprint profile, I'm pretty sure there's going to be in the single digits of how many are really, And I get it. I know we made strides with the neophyte portal, but that's not even in our MIP documents for them to even go there afterwards, right? And so again, when we get into these process discussions, I think it's important, to your point, when we're talking about engaging collegians, is that we're providing them the right training and pointing them where the resources are to allow them to take advantage of them, right? And I will be remiss if I don't talk about what you were talking about, because when I came in spring 2000, our first program in social action was at a PAL center. They had police athletic leagues, and that's where we did our mentors at. We did a mentorship there, and it was definitely, we had the police officers hooping with the little kids. When I became, after I graduated, a coach for youth football, we always had our registration at the PAL centers, and that's an after-school program that kids, instead of going home, the latchkey kids, they went to the PAL centers. And so they had already had that interaction with the police officers at an early age, right? And now all of a sudden, in Maryland, you can't find one that's open. I don't understand why they closed them, but we just don't have, our playgrounds don't look like the same. So when we talk about engaging our youth, starting from our Sigma Betas to even those in middle school and high school, where are they going to play outside, right? If they're not in a sport, where are they going to just have fun as a kid, right? I feel like they're growing up way too fast because they don't have the same opportunities that we had when we grew up. And so I think that bringing those kind of full circle moments back to how do we engage our youth, what kind of systems and programs we can put in place. One, I think we just have to understand and bring them to the table and stop trying to feel like we have the answers, right? And so I think that's a start of how we can get them to advocate. It's by asking them, inviting them to the discussion so we can understand what their thought process is, because I guarantee you it is not what we're thinking up here. It is not. And then if you ask 3 of them, you're gonna get 3 different answers. And then you take that and then put those same 3 individuals in 3 different states, you're gonna get widely different answers, right? And so it's just, we have opportunities for growth. We have opportunities to advance this message, but I just think that we have to just start with inviting them to have a seat at the table first.
That was deep. That was deep. I think that's where you're getting that silence from. First of all, I haven't stopped writing since you started talking about wine. You know, at the end, we're supposed to talk about calls to action, but you just gave us 4 or 5 right there, right? Like, and I know on the break, you and Brother Hutt was talking about programs and the gaps between MOUs and programs, and that getting down to the foundations and the groundwork of the local chapters and what we're doing, right? And I know it's a sore conversation. It's something, the elephant in the room all the time is, you know, when we talk about the spirit of bigger and better business from 1924 and the spirit of social action from 1934 and where we are now in 2025 and all the programs and how we have gotten better, but the efficiency in the fraternity and the organization is not there, right? You gave a call to action is we have to get better in our processes. Right? We have to improve our training. How old is our MIP manual? Right? How old is our light? When was the last time somebody updated the perfection scoop? I probably didn't even say it right because I wasn't taught the right way to say it. Right?
Yeah, how relevant is the 2-year neophyte plan?
Exactly.
And does that even apply to alumni? Or does it just apply to collegiates?
Can I speak to that?
Absolutely. That's why I said it. That's why I asked it.
Listen. Okay. I put together a proposal. I sent it to Nigel. I want to do monthly programming where I want the younger guys or the new guys to come on first, and then we'll do like what I just did with George Washington Carver, okay? But I want, because a lot of guys just see me and they hear other brothers defer to me about history. They say, can you tell me this? Can you answer that? I'm like, yeah, of course. So if I got everybody on a Zoom at the same time, we would clear up a lot of misnomers and misunderstandings. And I think we need to do that on the international level. And we haven't had good success. I mean, Mallet did a fantastic job. And Clarence Davis did a fantastic job. This is something, if we show them how it's done, then they'll pick it up because the East always leads. So,
look, I'm a believer that when you say this generation, we don't know how they think, and you're right, we don't. I'm still trying to figure my kids out, but to me, I believe it's no different than those 60 brothers trying to figure me out when I came in the 70s. So we were different, but we found a way to connect. And to me, it goes back to identifying the right type of man or person we want, even on a college level, to come into our organization. Because I was the kind of brother that, and I'm not saying I was unique, because I don't think I was, but we've got to have brothers that have passion, that want to be involved. And sometimes because of our process and our MIP, and I know that's not what we're here to discuss, but all of that is germane to how those brothers, once they become Sigmas, they're going to think of this organization. How you bring them in is how they're going to think of this organization. And as past regional directors, and you brothers would know, we could tell you stories about the difference how chapters do their MIP process still to this day. And then you can identify those brothers that don't have the passion because of the way they were brought in, and the brothers that they met through their process did not instill in them the desire to want to learn more about this organization. And then I go back to say, what's our role today as Sigma brothers? And I go back to that Sigma wellness and the importance of all three programs intertwined together. And now the fourth with our Sigma Beta Club, with everything that's going on in these last 100 days. And we knew it was coming. We knew it was coming. I say, how do we get our brothers to understand that and you said it earlier, getting out here marching, it may not be the way that we're going to get their attention. And I wonder if we could get to the point where as people of color, we can do the whole boycotting thing that they're talking about, boycotting Target and some of these other stores. Because black people just like to spend money, let's be real. So how do we do that, or how does, as an organization of Phi Beta Sigma men, how do we address these issues that are affecting people every day? And now these people that voted for him, that are on Medicaid, and all these other governmental fundings that are now being stopped. These people that live in Iowa that nobody knew there were federal jobs that are now being laid off. How do we as Sigma brothers reach out and as a fraternity make a statement that we're doing something at least to our younger Sigma brothers to get them prepared for what could happen to them in 2 or 3 years once they graduate from college? And I think that's where we need to be looking at. And you brothers, as the current brothers sitting in these roles of leadership, how do we as an organization get these younger brothers engaged? And how do we get these older brothers to understand that just because you're older doesn't mean your Sigma career, or not your career, but your Sigma involvement should really dwindle to the point where I'm just showing up for certain events. And it's about passion. I was telling Willard, I said, man, I remember DSC brothers when I came in, and I was in awe of these brothers. And sometimes they're scared to talk to them because they were DSC brothers. Yeah. And I feel what I had to do was break down and go up and talk. And once I started talking to them, I found out that they were very engaging. They were very engaging. And somehow we continue this battle, collegiate alumni, and how do we get past that to say, brothers, it's got to be a two-way street. You cannot discount knowledge and experience. Yeah. But at the same point in time, you cannot discount how we were when we were 18, 19, 20 years old, and how we wanted to shake up Sigma. So I get it. So the question is, how do we today, as leaders and the future leaders, how do you pull all this together and encompass the programming to show these brothers, man, if we come together as brothers, our programs can be phenomenal. Mm-hmm. All these other organizations do programs too. Let's concentrate on what we do. You know, let's concentrate on what we do and do it better and try to teach our young brothers the importance of carrying on what a lot of us thought was very important. I wonder about that sometimes when I see this. And I see, is our history being transferred to these younger brothers? And I don't think it is.
No,
I don't think it is.
not.
And if you don't have an understanding of your history, you're not going to have a desire to want to continue it and to preserve it. Yep. So that's where the challenge is. So I'm still here. So
that's a great conversation. This is a great conversation. I feel like we could do this probably all day. No. Except I know we have some things and some places that we need to be. And what you just spoke is a great transition to one of our first closing questions is, advice to future leaders. And today we've talked a lot about empowering our young brothers, empowering our Sigma Betas, empowering our young and future leaders. All of you on the panel right now, current and past, have all done a great job of mentoring us, right, in our roles. And we appreciate that. So, as we move on, and there's young brothers, young collegiate brothers who may not be Sigmas yet, watching this podcast, what words of wisdom would you share with those who look to lead this program in the future, but with our young brothers overall, our young men overall, in communities that look like ours, for our 4 panelists.
I'm more than happy to jump in on that one. I think something that stuck with me to this day, and I'll forever remember this, is that a protest without policy is just a parade. One more time for those in the back. A protest without policy is just a parade. And what that is about is that it is absolutely imperative that we do have protests for things that are not in our best interest. But we have to ensure that elected officials, government officials, and others, and we advocate for policy that is beneficial to us, that is beneficial to the causes that we believe in. Those things are key, because without them, we're just going through the motions. We talked about the hamster wheel, where we're just kind of moving, but we're not moving forward. Honorable Brother Williams talked about engagement. I think that's the other E. There is education, there's exposure, but there's engagement. And we have to have the engagement that touches on all points, because there's levels to this game. Those who have the wisdom that may be a little bit older, quote unquote, because we're all on that timeline anyway, but they have a relevant and important role in Sigma and outside of Sigma. We have to find ways to engage them and continually draw upon their wisdom. Those who are in sort of the mid-set of their life and journey, we have to find ways to engage them. Those who are younger, we have to find ways to engage them. And I think the important part is we have to meet brothers where they are. The idea of pushing for a young brother to go to a website, update information on a portal, it's just not where it's at. And I'm not trying to bash Blueprint. I love Blueprint. But I think that the organization has to find ways to create our mobile app and mature it so that brothers can use their phones, especially the younger ones, use their devices to update information, to query info about local events, local happenings. Those things are key so that they don't have to, we don't want to make it hard for brothers to do things. Especially the quote-unquote younger generation. It has to be easy. And so we've got to find ways to meet brothers where they are. We've got to find ways to encourage advocacy. If chapters don't have Sigma Beta clubs, they certainly should at the very minimum have a adopted school. So from the education perspective, they have the engagement with the school. They have the exposure to the people in the school. And even if those students aren't future Sigmas, the influence and the knowledge that's shared will allow them to become advocates for improving our relationships, for improving society as a whole. Those are the things that I think will really kind of tie those elements together.
Yeah, I'll just be brief, echoing exactly what 2-7 just said there is, I think having the collegiates and just in general, if I was to ask or give them any kind of advice, is that one, you can be impactful without a title. Mm-hmm. And two, the engagement is definitely key. One of my favorite quotes is, if your presence doesn't make an impact, then your absence won't make a difference. And the reality of it is that you can't be scared to speak up to things that you know in your heart of hearts can change. Because we can honor our legacy, but that doesn't mean that we can't look and build to a better future, right? And they are our future, and sometimes when they look at that, they say, hey, look, we're the younger generation, where is our lane? And it's incumbent upon us as leaders to not only show them that they have a lane, but also step aside so they can see it for themselves. And I think that if I had to tell a future collegiate, that'll be that. It's that you have a lane, you have a purpose, and and just make sure that you just set that goal and don't be afraid to actually realize that goal, regardless of whatever title that you think you need, right? Everybody has a voice, and everybody's voice should be respected in that same round.
Mm-hmm. I got it. Look, I think a lot of this discussion today was very good. I don't know how you're going to edit it all down, but we talked about a lot of different things, and I am a believer that as we have gotten older, and I speak for myself, I am one of those senior brothers now. And I believe in, just like I was, we have to identify these future leaders. Future leaders don't always just pop up. You sometimes got to go grab them because they don't even know they're leaders themselves. Not everybody, but you got some leaders that's innate about their personality. They love being out there. But we have some brothers that are quiet, reserved brothers that when you sit down and start talking to them, you go, wow. Wow. And that's what we have to do as brothers in positions, whether leadership positions or brothers in an advisory role of being around long, because that's what was done to me. I know I was identified. Maybe not always for the good reasons, because let's be clear about the politics that gets played. But I know why I was identified. But at the same time of that, we have got to encourage our young brothers that you got to be passionate. You've got to want to do something. My father always told me, man, you don't work hard for nothing, you're not going to treasure it the same. You're just not. So we've got to instill in these young brothers that with wisdom and age and knowledge, we pass it on to you. We're not only just passing Sigma history on, because again, like I said earlier, that's very important. We go nowhere unless you understand where we came from. We go nowhere. Amen. But understanding who we are as men and what avenues we had to cross to get where we got, because these young brothers, like my son and my daughters, think, I want what you have now. And it don't happen like that. So I think we have to, again, continue to reach out to these young brothers. And again, no, let me get me wrong, not just young brothers, man. We got brothers that come in our chapters on alumni levels that are in their 30s and 40s and really want to contribute. And we should not pause just because they're alumni brothers and not let them shine also. Because we do have a lot of these brothers that come in our organization that didn't do it on a college level, but they come in now, man, they hit the ground running and they bring so much creativity to the chapter and to the fraternity. So if I say anything, man, I say have passion for what you want. Have passion for what you do. Be willing to learn. Be willing to listen. And from us, be willing to give information. Be willing to share what you've learned. And the hardest thing for me that I've learned is be willing to also listen yourself.
Yeah.
And I think if we all try to do that better, I go back to Sigma Wellness. I think we have four of the most dynamic programs of fraternal life. We just got to make sure that we continue to pass that on and get brothers that are passionate about serving in those roles, because your job is not to create new programs, but your job is to make sure what we've been doing for the last 100+ years, we continue to do and take it to the next level. So,
love it, Brother Hut.
Okay. I want to start by talking about everybody. JR pledged in 1985, so this will be his 40th year. You pledged in 1977, so this is your 48th year. I pledged in 1980, so this will be my 45th year. I think JR and Daryl can tell you I've never missed a regional conference.
Nope, never.
And
We've been there together.
I only missed 3 conclaves. I've been to 22. So Tampa will be my 23rd. So part of engagement is when we start going, I think all of us can say we've seen brothers who come out strong, undergrad, grad, and then all of a sudden they get married and start having kids and they never come back. But other people say, I'm going to take this pause. And we need to keep them informed. So while they raise their family, which is their primary function in life, come back and get them engaged. So we know who comes to regional conference. We know who goes to conclave. We see people all the time. Like I used to see you all the time. I came to Philadelphia, to visit Vanetta. Kept seeing you. I was like, who's this guy? Who's this guy? Then he was chapter president. I was like, oh, okay. And then when we had our strategic planning meeting, you were there and you were working hard. And I knew you were going to succeed, you were going to be involved, and here you are as director of Bigger and Better Business. And I can definitely say you have a future in Sigma, and you're going to go high. And same thing with you. That workshop you gave on gun control, one of the best programs I've ever seen. And then you did the program on prostate health. I learned a lot. So, here we have two past leaders. I don't know what you call me. I'm kind of quasi-leadership and, the handyman.
Edit again.
You the glue.
I'm the glue. Okay.
Oh,
but you
man.
three are going to be our future. And what you do will affect the fraternity. But again, because we're here, you can lean on us, ask us questions, and we'll answer them for you to make things better and to make the organization more solid.
Awesome. Definitely. Well, Brother Stiff, this has been a great conversation. Excellent conversation. But at some point, all good things must what? Come to an end. Before we give closing remarks, Brother Stiff, is there any closing remarks that you have for this panel, for the body, and for those who might be watching?
I just want to thank each of the brothers that participated today. I think oftentimes, as I was telling Brother Reeves, oftentimes you get into this position and you never really think about who came before you. And over the last, me and Brother Howard put this together in a month. So, a month ago I reached out to Brother Hutt and Brother Christian, and they compiled a list of directors of social action going all the way back to 1946 to present. And you brothers showed up, so that means a lot to the both of us. So I just wanted to thank each of you for showing up for today's podcast, and I want to thank the brothers for listening and paying attention, and I hope that each of the brothers that not only attended in the audience but virtually learned something. Brother Howard?
Yeah, first of all, I echo everything you said, but I want to repeat, we enjoyed putting this together. Looking back at, we'd be giddy on the phone, on the Zooms, doing this, because it's so important. In order to get where we want to go, we got to know where we came from.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Absolutely.
And although we thought we knew the history of these programs in the Eastern region, we learned so much more preparing for this day. And we're excited. And we're excited for you guys who are watching. And we thank you for watching this special edition of the One East podcast, celebrating 100 years of Bigger and Better Business and 90 years of social action, not just in Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated, but in the Eastern region. Look out for the next edition of the One East podcast. Thank you for joining.
And brothers, I don't mean to cut the ending off, but there's one brother, Brother Ronald DeLeon, who served as the regional director of social action in 1970. I had the opportunity to talk to him, and he told me to make sure I mentioned his name on the podcast. Brother DeLeon. So happy you joined us.
Oh, man.
Absolutely.
All right.
Go my brothers.
Hey, appreciate it.